All right, good morning. All right, let's pick up where we left off, huh? Let's see. Skip that one since the hand isn't quite complete. But here to the top. Let's see, I want red, orange. Yeah, it's funny. Saw some artists recently discovered that in the blue ones, similar to this one, they'll often have a hole in the top, and there's a sharpener inside of that, so you can pull the lid off and sharpen with it. Not with this one though. Not sure if I have another one that's similar to it because I'm using different leads in these, but the Statler ones have that. The problem though is it can be really messy, so it's usually better just to use one of these things instead, just because it's easier to clean up and clean out rather than dealing with a bunch of graphite falling out of the top of your pencil onto your work. So, but I saw some people talking about it recently, and like, oh, did you know? And yep, it's not a good idea to use it. But all right, let's see. Do that. So we'll do that one next. That's pretty good. I'm holding a pen or something in their hand. It's gonna set the size. Evenly space those fingers out. Yeah, the Statler ones all have that little sharpener in the top, but other ones don't. So like this one doesn't have it. You question the quality of this one just because it's starting to come across here. I almost just got it because it's made out of wood, but it's going to fall apart on me. I don't really like that too much. Not sure how it's being held in there. I was hoping to just find like an orange colored one, but it did not appear in any of my searches, so. But, it's kind of handy, if you will. Go ahead and get those fingers in there. Zoom out over this area. Anyway. Mass. Oops. Dropping onto somebody's shoulder, looks like. Block. Good morning. A little later start than I'd like, but I got my sister had an extra window AC unit that she gave me yesterday. I was looking at getting one, and then she's like, "Oh, no, I have one." And her husband kind of showed me something because it's getting really, really hot upstairs. They showed me something they were doing in their house to kind of help with that, where they found kind of a switch that redirects the proportion of air through different parts of the house. My house doesn't have that though, so I don't think that'll work here. But they had an extra AC unit that they stopped using because they figured that out. And so there's a little extra noise in here. It's probably that tonight or this morning. But it's definitely making a huge difference up here. So I spent the morning kind of installing that in the window. So it's getting a little crazy hot up here. End of that lead, huh? It's always interesting kind of working from reference like this or from life because like the hand will move in different ways, or body, or whatever you're drawing, dogs, cats, the streets, things will like work in maybe different ways than you anticipate. And that's part of what makes it feel like the real thing. Probably like exclusively working from imagination without like significant, like tens of thousands of hours of experience with the real thing. You can kind of convince yourself that you understand it, but probably don't. Understand it well enough to really make it feel like it's there or believable. To have that verisimilitude. It's like another one of those things people like trust what they get from AI outputs. It's not trustworthy at all. Because it doesn't know what it's doing, and if you don't know that it doesn't know what it's doing, and you trust that you're getting from it is like real, you're going to start bumping into reality really fast. There's the other side of the bag over there. It's like you have to be careful with reference too. Like simply copying it, if you're trying to like make something original, that's also a problem. But it'll look like it doesn't quite fit. So if you're doing cartoony hands and you drew realistic hands like these, that might be a problem. I did bump into that kind of, where someone had like this very kind of energetic, stylized, somewhat cartoonified approach, a very cartoony, I guess, approach. And it's like you could really see when the artist was just straight up tracing a photo, like a landscape or a car or something like that. I mean, like, yeah, don't do that. Like, it's study it and then work from it. But need to order some more of those. Some more orange lead here. Drop it into the holder. There we go. But yeah, it was really weird because you like see a house or a street corner or a car or a bus, and it just really stuck out because you could tell artist was just like straight up tracing it. All right, those ones. We get two, and it's angled the right way. That's like the way we break things into forms, like with a hand, like a flat box, fingers coming out of it. It's helpful, but it's not, what's really happening is the simplification that we use to help us kind of understand what's in front of us and then apply our our observations of that structure, so we're not just seeing things two-dimensionally, but three-dimensionally. Which usually is much more interesting than if a flat, depending on the context, because it's literally adding dimensions to it. So, some things to consider when you're drawing. Someone's holding something there. It's like a little stick. It's like there's an artist I see. Finally, kind of blocked him from my YouTube stream, but he does like 3D sculpts in Blender, and he uses like AI directly in his videos. Like he'll show him generating it, so he's not like hiding it or anything. But well, he comes to rely on those things. He's going to start making mistakes and not know it, because he's not trusting anything that's real. He doesn't care. He's like Bulgarian or something. He's like, doesn't think it matters. But as we get this group inked up here. It's fine to take from others, but a lot of people that use the stuff, they don't understand or never paid attention to the harms it does to the users. And there it is. Which I think is, should pay attention to that. I think I bought one of his courses a long time ago. Character sculpting. Might have even been for like ZBrush before we got into Blender. All right, shoulder. Oh, hand holding shoulder rather. That is paper. Really should have came up with the sketchbook so I can draw flat here. But, or my brace over there that I made a long time ago. There we go. That will help. I made this so I could either be level with or above the surface here. Let's forget I have it. Good morning. People popping in. How we doing? Hello over there on YouTube. Arnove. How are we doing? Context for that hand. Let's see. Good morning. Well, we're looking at it right now, right? Arnav. Ink's wet on here, but I can when I come to close. Well, maybe I finish these up real quick. This book is full of my what I call morning studies. So I like to do first thing in the morning is kind of get up and do these warm up morning studies, and kind of get me calibrated for the day. So I figured I would do these online. I got a couple of things I think laying out here that I can pull up. I'm working on a comic project for fun, so these are some rough layouts here that I've been working on as a little story. Kind of zoomed in a little bit on the camera on top, but it was a larger kind of world building project I've had in for development for a while. These are rough. These are like letter size or A4, depending on the country you're in, approximately. Yeah. Let's see. Where'd my pen go? There it is. Do you do arts? All right, have a good one. Come back again. Probably another 30 minutes or so. There it is. Oh. Good morning. Let's see. Now, what are we holding here? Chopstick or something? It's hard to say. Without more context. That's all the context I got is right here. Let's see. You an art professor? I actually am. So I teach in the Communication Arts Department at Virginia Commonwealth University. I've actually taught at a bunch of different universities, but I guess technically I'm an assistant professor. But it takes a very long time to get full professor. But, I'll take it for now. But I've taught at a bunch of different schools. Some of them are more famous. I've taught at SCAD, which I do not recommend to anybody. I've taught at Ringling, which I taught at SCAD in Hong Kong, which I think we've still got my resident Hong Konger in the Instagram side, hanging out. And I've also taught at Ringling College of Art and Design. I was there at each of these for 4 years. And and currently at VCU. So summer's off. I have actually a few different ones. So my undergraduate was in illustration, and I worked at a creative studio for a few years after graduating, and I've also worked in video games doing concept art. And then I've also worked with art galleries selling paintings and things like that in the past. This is a long time ago, but my big project with that art studio, the creative studio, was a 144-foot long mural that they would install. It took me a year and a half I spent a year and a half working on it. It took about 9 months to complete it, between like ideation and approvals and all of that. And then they would print it off and have some people install it in their different locations. Sorry, it's for a gas station company in kind of Utah, Idaho, Colorado, Arizona region. Included multiple parts, so there was like the main area, then there was like some bathroom ones and some bathroom hallway ones, and like a beer cave version. And that stuff was all done. All my illustration stuff was done digitally. That was mostly done in a program called Corel Painter, and then assembled in Photoshop. I've got like a mini version of one of the versions kind of printed out here somewhere. It's like 8 feet long or something. It's not 144 feet long. Maybe it's like 6 feet long. But that was a big project. And I've worked with like Disney Interactive. I've worked with Riot Games, EA. Doing freelance in the past. A lot of like smaller projects when I've sought them out. I haven't really been pursuing freelance lately, just because of the new job. I moved here to Virginia about 2 years ago, and then wanted to work on some more kind of personal type projects, update some skills. I see. Well, one of the things I teach, you might like this as an archaeologist then, is I teach a lot of perspective drawing. So technical perspective, not the not generic perspective, but actual like how to really measure space. So like for example, my students at Ringling, they had to measure their bedroom and recreate it accurately from outside of their room with perspective. So there's a whole like trick for doing that. It does take time, but they had to do that. We also had them make like isometric cityscapes, and they had to draw those from different points of view. They didn't have to use the hardcore technical perspective for that, but they practiced that enough that they kind of understood it by that point. And but isometric is really handy for like making maps and other things like that. Which I've been working on a concept project on my own little kind of road building project, and kind of want to take the story and then kind of map it out using isometric perspective for the different locations. Which I haven't gotten around to, but it's kind of on my list of things to do. So this hand's over here. Actually, one of my projects, speaking of Minecraft there, one of them's called the Mobius Minecraft Garden. And it's how to use technical one-point perspective, so how to like perfectly measure a square and a perfect cube, so not just like a generic box or a generic rectangle, but an actual cube in perspective. And it's really not that hard to do. A lot of artists, like you'll see, like they kind of freak out when they see technical perspective, especially if they haven't been trained on it, because it's just not as commonly taught as much anymore. Um, but it just takes like a couple extra steps. Like it doesn't take long to set up a perspective space, like maybe 15 minutes. But and then you get that accuracy going. But I have them build out a garden using blocks, blocky shapes, blocky forms like cubes and pyramids and things like that. So somewhat similar to Minecraft, not exactly the same. Yeah, I'm curious to see what those look like. But yeah, so then so they have to measure the space 1 point. So they make kind of a walled garden, and when they do that, then they have them go out and like they have to like design some textures. So I have them like draw a little cube shape and take some pictures of textures that they want to use for their garden. I don't want them going online for that one, like finding their own original ones. And then they kind of design those textures on those squares, and then on these cubes, and then they have to map those onto their garden. Um, and so that's another kind of interesting project that I had them do. Yeah, so like so basically like a lot of what we do would be some of it's like what they did say in traditional architectural rendering. They would also use it in like original old school illustration. It's not as common anymore because of 3D, but I still think it's worth learning because it kind of changes your view of how space really works. Let's see, that the right spot, and it kind of helps you think differently. So I saw an interesting article talking about the problems that AI causes in education if students are using it for anything, and it aligned with what I think. So there's always being wary of that, but basically it was pointing out that the product of education is not your portfolio, say, as an artist, or it's not an essay that you wrote. That's not the product. Really, the product of an education is the changes that happen to your cognitive thinking as a result of writing the essay, of doing the illustration or the painting. And I think that aligns also with, like, say, learning a skill like perspective. Oh, look, there is a bot. Let me delete that bot real quick. Let's see where you are. There you are. Man. I think I got rid of him. There we go. Yeah, they're annoying. I hate them. But my computer's off to the side where that's easier to do. If I'm at my drafting table. It's like, what are those even good for? Like getting like fake followers and integrations and all that stuff. It like doesn't. I guess it looks like you have more than what you have. Maybe. Doesn't seem like it's. Just even from like a practical view, it's like, But yeah, the guy was talking about how basically, if students are using it for tests or essays or other things, or professors are too, or recommending it, they're kind of mistaking the point of the education. Because it's not to like write good essays. The point of like writing a good essay is being able to organize your thoughts in a meaningful way. Got one hand there. I see. Yeah, I multi-stream across different ones, so at the same time, I figured out how to do that. So you got YouTube and Twitch and Kick and DLive though. I think I got myself blacklisted on DLive. I was doing some figure drawing stuff here, and I guess a lot of the streaming services don't like that, so I had to back off of that. But I don't think DLive shows me to anybody anymore. You think they'd be more loose about that since they're kind of like a crypto-based economy over there. But it's not. It's in the same reference. I haven't paid as much attention to kind of how all these systems work lately, but I need to get back to it. Oh, we'll come over there. Yeah, apparently Twitch is like a really terrible platform to grow on. I just figured out, if I can multi-stream, I'll just stick everything everywhere, right? Because why not, right? I'm not very good at YouTube anyway, because I'm not doing like regular videos. I just live stream. I've done a few, like posted like some of my tutorial videos and things up there, but it's been a minute. Well, I have one for Instagram, which is just my phone. And then I've got one above my desk, and it's a kind of a, what they call it, like a hybrid DSLR. It's a Sony A6000. I've had it for a while. I wouldn't mind getting the newest one, but I don't want to spend the money on it because the newest one you can broadcast in 4K with it. And then in order to multi-stream, it's just set up inside of OBS, and you can add in extra streaming services into that. So it's just a matter of adding them in. Like I could add more in if I wanted to. That's what, look around and see what other ones are popular, or interesting, or whatever, relevant. So that all happens on the computer. So I have an old MacBook that does that, and that's over there, up there. So I really have a bunch of screens up. I've got my iPad in front of me that I'm drawing from. I've got my old MacBook over there, and then I've got my desktop off to the side at the computer desk. And I'm still very happy with my upgrade I did on the desk recently, back in May. Turning it into a standing desk. Because you can get these standing desk motors now that are, or frames, so it's pretty inexpensive to set up. Still really like that. So it was like $150 for it. Yeah, but I generally prefer using YouTube for a number of things. Like I subscribe, paid subscriber on YouTube. For a couple different reasons. One was no YouTube ads, which is really, really nice. So I don't see any ads unless the YouTuber is reading them, which I hate it when they do that, because I'm like, I pay to have like no ads, and they're reading ads to me. And then, of course, they don't know that it's all automated, but still, it's just like, and so there's that. Then you can also download to the app on your phone or your tablet. So you can like download podcasts or longer videos or shorter videos. So like if I know I'm going to be out in the woods for an extended period of time and I want to bring some things with me to listen to or watch, I can do that. And then you can also play audio with the screen off. So you can listen to somebody talking on YouTube about whatever. And that's part of that subscription. And then the other big thing is music. So they have their own music service like Spotify or Amazon or whoever's got them now, Pandora. And it has its own kind of app on the phone. It doesn't have like a separate one for the TV stuff or whatever, but yeah, they have their own music, so it includes that too. So there's a whole bunch of stuff it kind of comes with that I really like and use all the time. So, but I always advocate for that. Despite whatever problems YouTube has as a general platform. It's I like those features. Oh yeah. Well, it's it's actually a calligraphy pen tip. It's calligraphy nib. It's a C-type number 3. I think it's a C3. But I like it because it kind of lets you draw these very, very straight lines. So I come here, I just like draw very directly as it balances. And it's not too wide. So I get a nice little line variation in it. Hello on YouTube, Mr. Hop Smoker. So I do have to like change the angle of my hand when I want to draw a line. If I want to make it look a certain way, I Like I want it to be thin versus thick. So if I draw sideways, I get a very, very thin line. Got Hunt 102s, but this paper is really rough and doesn't really like. They don't last long on this paper. But I like that you can kind of pull these like blocky shapes out of it. But it's really for calligraphy. So you can get those kinds of calligraphic lines if you're writing like wedding invitations or something. And then you can also do like this choppy line. So if I kind of set up the turning of the form here, like that, and if I want to do like these strokes like this, I kind of like how that works. Probably should have this closer together, but or these long little choppy strokes. So I've been exploring different inking techniques because I want to do some comic stuff, and so obviously you can do it all on the computer, I guess, but if I don't have to, it'd be nice to do it, by hand. With, I always hate the word traditional tools because so I just don't think it's very descriptive. I know it's like the vernacular for it, but I tend to prefer analog as opposed to digital. But if I feel like I need like tighter detail, I've got other nibs. If I'm feeling funky. I do a wide variety of subjects. Actually, drawing and designing characters has been a relatively new thing for me. I've mostly focused on kind of environments and creatures professionally. Like when I was working with art galleries, I mostly just sold landscapes. And or the mural I did was mostly a landscape with some figures interacting in it, but mostly that. But what I'm doing right now is this is what I do when I first get up in the morning. Is even if I wasn't doing this online, like I'd be just doing this on my own. That's kind of a morning warm up I like to do for about an hour, and we're at an hour 5 minutes, so we're just about out of time. I get some these white highlights on here. But yeah, it's a Type C calligraphy pen, so it's got like a square tip. Put it in the right spot, and then it's got a sharp side. Get out the deleter white. Yeah, I was drawing expressions with it. I'll pull that over once I get this these highlights on here. I'll show you. So I'll do portraits and other things. I've taught portrait drawing. Actually, figure drawing is the thing I've taught the most, which I consider to be kind of a different animal than like character design or imaginary stuff, because it's all done from life and you're strictly following what you observe for the most part. Studying anatomy, and structure, and measuring, all those good traditional drawing things. yeah, I've been spending a lot of time like studying expressions, not just portraits. So I hadn't spent a lot of time like dealing with drawing expressions historically, especially from my head, but even really just from observation or from photos or other things. And I kind of realized that coming into this new job that was something I needed to get much better at. So I've basically devoted a huge chunk of my first year and off and on since then at the new university, kind of perfecting or improving, not necessarily perfecting, but definitely improving that skill. I had a number of students turn in projects where I was like, oh, they have a lot more skill in that area than I do, so I need to improve this right away. So I jumped into that really heavy and spent a lot of time. It's gotten a lot better. Well, that's a quill, right? So what I was showing right there, it's a quill tip. There's different kinds. So like the most famous one is probably the Hunt 102, which I've got right here. So this one right here. This one's super sharp. It's really nice to work with. The only problem, actually, I probably need to replace the nib. It's starting to get worn out. But they wear out really fast on this paper because it's pretty rough, relatively speaking. On this paper, I tend to use this one a bit more, so you can get pretty sharp marks with it if you work really quick. It has a rounder tip, so it doesn't get dull as quick. In fact, I probably use this one to write the date and the source on here. So today is the 30th, and we are moving into July. And then my source was Pinterest, so I always call those pin ref. They come from like a specific artist. Like sometimes I'll sketch other artists' work, because I believe copy work is a really important way of studying. But I'm going to pull this over. So yeah, so here was the last few days. Let me pull back the camera a little bit. Pull this down. So that was the last few days. So there's the 26th, 24th. I skipped the 25th. I was really sick. I was actually still sick on the 26th, but I didn't broadcast that one. Let's just make sure I can show. Sometimes I'm doing figure drawings, I really can't show that here. But again, here's some imagined portraits, and then these are mostly drawn from reference here. This is me. Most of May, I was sketching other people's stuff. So this is me drawing other people's tutorials, which you also can see right here. Yeah, quill. Well, they call them. There's different kinds, right? So you're thinking of like an actual quill when drawing with a feather. So like here's reference, and this is drawing tutorials from other people. I was using kind of the Etherington brothers. They were reposting other people's tutorials. But the nibs that we use on these, so example, they often call the Hunt 102 a crow quill pen. So this one right here I was showing before. Pull it up higher to the camera. Well, this one right here, the Hunt 102, I think Speedball makes it now. But it's based on a crow's quill. So they still call it a crow quill, but it's not really made out of crow feathers, for example. So here's a bunch more tutorials and things I was studying. Let's go back further. This is me studying Stuart Immonen, who's a comic book artist. So I was drawing from some comics that he's drawn. Those are different X-Men. Same thing here. So this is my morning study. It's kind of how I warm up for the day, and I'll pick different things at different times for different reasons, different paper even, but Well, that's kind of where we're at right now. I'm just working through a bunch of these hands. I thought it would be a good way to practice, good subject to practice. Yeah, but that's the deal with crow quill. So basically, because you know it's a little harder to manufacture birds compared to pen nibs. Uh, you can still get them. Like you can go outside, and you can trim a feather and use that, but you have to be good at like trimming it and cutting it so it'll work properly. Some people will draw with sticks. There's all kinds of things you can use. I want to experiment with a few things I've picked up, like using sponges. So like dipping this in ink and using this to put texture down, which I think could be really interesting to play with. I played with a little bit. I've got a couple of different types of sponges around for that purpose. I bought some of these larger, like cheap brushes. This one, I've got another one that's bigger for that purpose too. I even bought one of these to kind of experiment with. There are tools that only do straight or curved lines. Well, everything can do a curvy line. Everything can do a straight line. I guess you could use like a razor blade if you want to do like a really straight line. But generally, if you're going to draw a straight line, you use a ruler, right? So you get like a ruler like this, or if there's a specific kind of curve you're trying to draw, then there's templates for that, like French curves, like these. Actually, I need to replace this one. It's got a little chink out of it somewhere right there, that I bump into once in a while. But people will use these type of things for that, so they'll put it down and they'll line it up with the curve they want to make and use that. And this one actually has a lip on it, so that means I can kind of lean my crow quill against it, and the ink won't leak underneath it. It'll kind of stay on top. So that's the idea there. So you look for, there's certain triangles and templates like these that have that, and it's there to kind of help prevent you from making a mess. So yeah, rulers and that. I also use ellipses or circle templates are handy to have around, or a compass. I tend to do most things freehand. If it's going to be something very, 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 very specific, that I might use one of these templates. Or it's a very long distance, then those are really, really handy to pull out and use. But yeah, that's kind of what people will use. This is kind of a fun one, which I haven't really used much, but it's like a bendable ruler, so I can bend this to whatever kind of shape I want, and then draw with it. So I thought that's I picked up one of these. I haven't really had a chance to use it yet. But yeah, there's the little kind of stampy stylus that they would use, right? So was it the Sumerians or whoever that made the little tablets? It's been a while since I thought about those guys, but they make the little tablets, right? Some of those are really funny. I came across one. It was like a customer service complaint. Where he was basically saying, "Hey, this guy sold me stuff that wasn't very good, so I'm not sending him as much in payment." And he was like leaving a really bad, like a really mean Yelp review for somebody that he was buying product from. But I thought that I thought that one was pretty funny that they found. Most of the time, they're just like it's an accounting thing, so they're trying to keep track of who sold what for how much, when, and where. But here's like more kind of the imagination stuff right here. So from the world building project I've been working on. But I've got multiple sketchbooks that I've been filling up with this, and then some stories I've been writing that I hope to get out there soon-ish. Let's see, where did that one go? Splatter and everything on it. But, there we go. But the little story that I've kind of written up, I'm quite happy with these. I even did some splattering on here with a toothbrush. It's a pretty common tool. So take your thumb and dip it. You dip this in ink, shake off a lot of the ink, and then you can splatter with it. But basically, humans have colonized this other planet, and the planet from outer space looks like a giant tangle of plants. And there's evidence in the form of these things and these kind of pillars and things, or this type of thing, of a former civilization, but that's all the evidence that they've left behind. So they don't know, people don't know what's happened. So but humans are colonizing it, they're living there, and they kind of learn to adapt some of the plant life and things into their technology. And anyways, I've written a couple stories. One's about a guy who, this isn't like the best illustration, but it's, let's see where to go. All right, here, this guy right here. Cover that up for plot reasons, but basically, he's it's set like 80 years after they've crashed, and he's there to. He's kind of a scavenger, and for something happened where a bunch of the colony ships, they kind of ended up. There's some fashion design for you, Justine. I made one character who's right here as like a doll, and then trying out different patterns of outfits on her. But so in one story, he's going out and he's investigating a wreck of another ship, which is kind of the little comic thing I think I showed earlier. Let's see what else we got in here. But some city stuff here. The colony city, playing around with some things there. Playing around with some ink, but also like this is mostly just about the ships that I was kind of sketching here on this page. But anyway, this guy finds this old ship that's been there since they originally arrived, and he kind of starts to investigate it and discovers some things about the original landing. Here's some more like city shots. But then the other one, which was where you see the girl here, it's set much later. Where'd that picture go? There we go. Well, this one right here, I like using kind of this blue and red. This is also using a little bit of a marker on here. But it's set much later, like say hundreds of years later. They've settled in. They're kind of living out whatever they're doing on the planet. Anyway, those that tower type thing I showed you before, they're all over. They're kind of scattered around on the planet at different locations. This thing right here, or this one. Actually, this one more. But they're kind of scattered around, and you're not really supposed to go near them. They're kind of, especially ones that are in these special reserves. So she takes this guy and his daughter out to one of them on kind of this illegal tour. This guy back here and his daughter, you can see him kind of up here. And the girl takes off on her own after they check out a few sites, and they have to go and rescue her. And so that's the kind of the premise there. But that's kind of been the thing I've been working on, and using that kind of world and the world building there to kind of work on some of my skills to give them more focus, so that it's not just a lot of times, like if people are trying to learn things, they do a bunch of random stuff, or rather than kind of focusing it around something that they actually want to accomplish. And I think that's often the key to getting better as an artist. So, like with the hands I'm drawing here, I'm not just drawing hands to draw hands. I'm drawing them because I know I want to use a lot of hands in portraits and expressions in that little short, these like kind of short graphic novels that I'm thinking of doing. So they're existing for a purpose, and I'm paying attention to them for that purpose. And so, because you can do, it can be helpful to do random things to a certain degree, but I think it's better if you're looking for ways of applying your knowledge to something rather than put this paper laid down flat again. Popped up. Oh, careful. Let me not throw all my stuff on the floor. Alright, back up here. My table's at an angle, and so everything's kind of held up by magnets. So if I let things slip, it'll all come crashing down. But yeah, but the more you can kind of tie your studies into the things you actually want to accomplish, I think the more quickly you'll improve because you're actually using it for something. So because it means more, right? That's just the basic fact of things. So, but anyway, that's my morning study. I got a bunch of stuff to do today, and appreciate everybody that came in. It's like the Twitch one, their stuff hasn't transferred over completely, but yeah, thanks for the comments there. Appreciate it. But anyway, I'll definitely be back tomorrow morning. I may be back later today, depending on how I get done. If I get done with all of my chores, got a bunch of like paperwork things to do that I meant to do yesterday. But if I can get that done, I'll probably be back. I've got some more drawings that I've started working on for this little project, and of course, there's the comic pages I've started. Print them out. So, and they got it nice and cool in here, so I'm not dying of heat anymore. So, like, these are the full-size pages here from those smaller ones. I printed these out in blue line, and then I'm working on the details on top. I made my own comic paper because I couldn't find anything good in terms of that was accurate and set to the right size, so I didn't have to mess around with it. So I made my own, though I didn't print the actual limits on here. For some reason, they're there. They're just underneath the drawings. So, but they made my own, so I labeled it and everything for myself. But so I had to just start getting that going on the regular. Anyway, but yeah, thanks everybody that came in. I appreciate it, and we'll get you all later.